We start with the right eye, frame facing upwards as though the patient was looking up. The lens rest is this little device here. The table slides for the base of the frame, right? Set that at the base and slide in to the lens. And the reason why we do that is the system actually detects whether or not the lens has multifocal, progressive or bifocal, trifocal. You can manually pick that by touching the lens selection option. If I touch it once, it goes into progressive mode.
What's progressive?
It's a no-line bifocal.
Oh.
So
it's
you
for
can't
older
see a
people.
line for people like me, right? But I don't have them yet. It puts a reading power in the base of the lens.
Okay.
Right? So it'll detect that automatically, but you could manually pick it if you already know that they're there. And in some cases, the power is weak, and it won't pick it up because it's like 0.75 is somebody like me. And it's a weak enough power that just by tilting the frame, you can get that much power in a lens. So I've read my right eye. Okay, I'm going to switch in, read the left eye, same way.
So you align the Myers.
And so you see the Myers move as I move the frame. And I'm using the table by hooking my finger around it and resting this floating above the space. I don't actually drag the lens across it. That's just to set up kind of close to that space. And then you'll see that there's this little crosshair that we line up right on the middle. And once it hits perfect center, it makes a reading. Once I've got reading in a right eye and a left eye format, I can hit the print function. It'll give me a short printout with the number that correlates to the number of the patient in here. It's not a chart number, it's just an index number. It advances every single time you take a reading. And it sends this data using this little Bluetooth to the CV, the vision tester for the doctor. Okay. The other features that are important to know on this are the step. This is how the big increment that it jumps between powers. It's set at 0.25. If you touch this, it changes it to twelfths and then hundredths.
I'll do 0.25.
0.25 is what we standardize use in the industry. This is prism. If you have a patient that has double vision, you can actually assess the amount of prism in the lens as well. Most of the time, it's just left in the off or in the auto position. You can do UV testing through a lens.
Oh.
So when it takes the reading, you can actually, let's clear it and take like a full reading with UV on. What it'll actually do is try to assess how much visible ultraviolet is transmitted through the lens. So 4% means only 4% of the UV transmission made it through the lens. So a standard sunglass lens, right, should block almost 100%, should get 0%. But these are not sunglasses. They're just a polycarbonate style lens, which blocks somewhere about 95% of ultraviolet, which is pretty good. And then you do the same thing for the other side.
So always kind of keep it on UV, just in case?
Yeah, it's fun.
Doesn't hurt, right?
It's fun. Plus then you can comment to your patient
That lens quality.
on the lens quality and the risk factors that they have. It is Texas. There's a lot of sun. The table can be made to hold a lens by the lens clamp. And that's just a push, like your emergency brake in some cars. It's a push-on, push-off function. And then I always lift pressure off of it if I'm going to reposition the lens. Because,
so you're not sliding the...
So you're not sliding on the lens surface. Because what can happen is if you do, and it's a soft lens material, it can actually scratch the lens. And try to avoid that. It happens, but try to avoid it where we can. Let's say I know that that's where I want to take the reading, but it's not reading it. I have a manual reading button. When I hit that, it takes the reading. So you don't have to wait and float for it to be purple. You can actually just float into the space where you want it and hit the capture button. But in that regard, I like to use the table so that I can take my hand off and push the button. Otherwise, it wants to try and take the reading. Then when you hit the print, and it prints it all out. Right? So I've got that piece. Now I want to get this piece.